Howdy gamers, greetings from Indianapolis, Indiana, the gaming capital of the world. It's time for another board game review with me, Indiana John. Today we're taking a look at one of the pieces of new hotness from Gen Con 2015, and that is Tides of Time from Portal Games and designer Christian Kurla. This is a very interesting two-player card drafting game where you're trying to lay cards in front of you to get the most points. Two-player card drafting games are a bit of a unicorn in the genre of card drafting games, and so I was very interested to check this one out. It was definitely one of the hot games at Gen Con 2015 that sold out quickly. So I got my hands on a copy of it. Let's take a look at the setup and gameplay of Tides of Time and see if we can answer that all-important gamer question, is it fun? So I'm going to start by showing you the components and how a turn works in Tides of Time, and then we'll go into the specific cards, which is really sort of the point of the game, is how these cards interact in order for you to score points. So this is a two-player card drafting game, so each player is going to get a hand of 5 cards at the beginning of the game, and then you'll set the rest of the cards aside. Each player is going to take their hand and is going to select one card to play in front of them, and then those cards will be revealed simultaneously, and so that each player can see. And then they'll take the rest of their hands and they will swap them. And then you will take the hand that you've been given, you're going to select a card from there, you're going to play it simultaneously, and then you'll swap hands again. This will continue 5 total times until everybody has played 5 total cards, and then you will score those cards. So the mechanics of the game are very simple as far as drafting, trading, and then laying your cards down, but it's the way that these cards interact and how they're scored that's the real meat of the game. So let's talk about that and how that works, and then we'll go through what happens after one turn is over with. So there's only 18 total cards in the game, and they consist of 5 different suits. That you can see right here. These symbols on the top left of the cards are the different suits. And then each card will have some sort of a scoring condition that will determine how points are scored, and then these are the points that you would get. So let's go over each of those scoring conditions. 5 of the cards in the deck have a very similar scoring condition. For each of a particular suit, gain 3 points. So in this case, for each blue, gain 3 points. Now you'll notice the actual suit on the card itself is not blue, but it's going to give you points for every blue that you have in front of you at the end of that round. So there's one of those for each of the suits in the game. And as you can see, again, the suit of the card doesn't really match the suit that it's going to give you points for. But that's 5 of the cards in the game that will give you points for having cards of other particular suits. Similarly, there are 5 cards in the deck that will give you points for having the majority of a particular suit at the end of the round, and that'll give you 7 points for those. So you're going to look at the 5 cards you've laid down and look and see who has the most of a particular suit, and if you have that card in front of you, then that's going to give you those points. You only score if it's in front of you. So if you look at, for the majority of red castles gain 7. If you have the majority, you get 7 points. But if the other person has the majority, they don't get 7 points. You just don't get those 7 points. And again, there's one of those for each of the suits in the game. Interesting artwork on these cards as well. 3 cards in the deck will give you points for having sets of suits in front of you. So in this card, for each set of blue and green, you're going to gain 5 points. And there's one that will give you points for having a set of all 5 suits in front of you for 13 points. And then one for these 3 suits will give you 9 points. The other 5 cards in the deck are unique and have special abilities on them that are different from just getting sets or majorities. This one, for example, says for each suit you don't have, gain 3 points. This one says that you're going to double the amount of your most numerous suit, so that could really affect those other cards that will allow you to get points for majorities, because it'll double the amount of a particular suit. This one says that for scoring the highest with a single card, gain 8 points. So that's a very situational thing each round as well. When you're calculating out the majorities, if there's a tie, then that's not considered a majority, and so therefore you wouldn't get the points for that. But in this case, if you have this card in front of you, you win all ties. So that could be a real important one for you. And then for the majority in suits with only 1 card, gain 8 points. So you're going to look at how many cards you have in front of you that are unique in their suit, and if you have more of those than your opponent does, 8 points for you. So that is the entire deck of cards for Tides of Time, just those 18 cards and the way that they interact with one another and those 5 suits to give you the points in your turn. So at the end of the round, each player is going to go through their cards and is going to determine what their final score is for the round based upon the rules that are on each of these cards, comparing majorities and so forth and so on. And the game even comes with a score pad here, a nice, very big, thick score pad, and a pencil so that you can write down your score for the round. Then you're going to move on to a second and then a third round. But here's what you do in between rounds. Each player is going to look at their cards and they're going to select one of their cards that they're going to keep for the rest of the game. So they will take that card and will mark it with this token, the cardboard token, to show that it's banked for the whole rest of the game. Let's say that this player does this one and they would do that. So now they have a hand of 4 cards. Then each player is going to look through their hand of cards that they had just played, and they're going to select one card to remove from the game completely, and that'll get removed. Each player will reveal those simultaneously, and they'll get removed from the game. So now they're down to 3 cards. Each player will then draw back up to 5 cards, and then this will be the new hands for the second round. And then you'll just begin and do the exact same thing where you're going to be playing a card, swapping hands, and doing that 5 times. And now you'll have 6 cards in front of you, and you'll do a scoring round again. At the end of the second round, it's exactly the same as at the end of the first round. You're going to select one of your cards to bank, and then you're going to put another one of those tokens on it. So now each player will have 2 cards banked, and you'll discard 1, draw back up to 5, and then play through a second round or third round there. Keeping your score each time. After 3 rounds, you'll add up all the scores, and whoever has the most points is going to be the winner of Tides of Time. You know, I don't think that I'll ever be a game designer. I think I just don't have the brain for it, and I just can't do the math in my head for how to create interesting, balanced mechanics, or things that tie together with theme. I just don't have those skills and abilities. So I have a great admiration for game designers, and especially for games like Tides of Time that take a small number of mechanics and a small number of cards, a simple system, and create a fun game with some strategic depth to it. Tides of Time only has 18 cards, a couple little tokens, a score sheet, and a sharpened golf pencil. That's all you get in the box here. And it's an extremely fun game with lots of replayability. And the moment that you play it, you're going to want to play it again because to figure out what are the best ways to save your cards, to lay them down in the right order. And what do you want to keep? What do you want to pass on? You have perfect information eventually because you're able to see both hands of cards, but trying to figure out what order to play things and trying to sort of guess what the other player is playing, what their plan is, makes this game so much fun. And so my wife and I really enjoy playing this game. I think it's a great, you could call it a filler because it's short, but it's just a great overall 2-player game that plays very quickly. So I think this one is just fantastic. So if you want a good 2-player game in your collection that over the course of time you can sort of dig into and peel back the layers of strategy and of intrigue that go along with the game, I think this one it really fits that category. So I would highly recommend Tides of Time. I think it's an extremely fun game. So if it sounds interesting to you, check it out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.